right, hello, we are live. It is April 24th. How does it get any better than this? Hey, how's it going? How's it going, everybody? Excuse me. Hi, your weird brother. Hey, Jamie Lewis, how's it going? Marina, good to see ya. Cool. Good morning. How are you guys doing today? Hello, Luna Lotus. How are ya? Good day, Cyberboss. How are you doing? Good morning. Hopefully the lighting's okay for you guys. I had to switch up my ring light situation. Doing okay. I've been going through a whole lot. I hear ya. Oh, thank you, your weird brother. Appreciate it. Lighting's fine. Good. Yeah, it does get better for you though, your weird brother. I'm doing all right. I'm here. I'm here. I'm ready to go. So I'm good. All right. Yeah, what's new? Whew. Okay. Jamie Lewis asks, should they do any more JMA shows this year, and should they leave JMA at the end of the year? I actually do get to do more JMA shows this year. As far as you leaving JMA at the end of the year, would it be good if you leave JMA at the end of the year? For some reason I'm getting no, maybe soon after the end of the year, weirdly enough. I don't know if there's like a cutoff where you have to leave at that time, but that's more along the lines of what I'm getting, is not leaving right away at the end of the year, but to actually do more JMA shows. So hopefully that's not a bad answer. That's not an answer you weren't looking forward to, but that's what I'm getting for you regarding the JMA shows. That is a symbol of Metatron on your wall. Yeah. Huge Badonkers asked, should they become a shaman? What I get for you is it'd be a good thing to learn, but you don't need to make it your whole thing. Like if you find a good, reputable shamanic teacher or practitioner who's like awesome, yes, I would definitely take those classes and like get into that. But there is more for you than just that, so it's worth every penny if you go into it, is what I'll get. Just I don't think you need what I was about to say. I was just gonna say, don't make it everything about everything. You already know this. I was just trying to say something like, and they're not even letting me get the words out. Let me see what they want me to say instead. They're just like, yes, do it. Don't make it your entire personality. But of course, I think that goes without saying. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Excuse me. Okay. Oh. Okay, let's see here. Go to the Q&A. Hannah asks, will they get a job? I get yes. I'm actually getting soon. Sooner rather than later is what I'm getting. If you haven't been, you're probably already applying, but yeah, keep applying. You're going to get a job. That's pretty much what I'm getting. If you were worried about that. Nicole, my dad is in heaven, wondering if he is proud of you. Instantly, I just heard very proud of you. For some reason, I'm getting like the words, he cares as well. So I guess it's not like he's in heaven ambivalently, like he does like care about you in your life. He thinks you're doing great, and I know things can be a little bit different up there, and he's saying he doesn't judge either, essentially, is what he's saying. But I'm getting you're doing great. I'm also getting the words, there's nothing to be worried about. And of course, this could apply to a lot of people, but what he's saying is sometimes you worry about people that, or sometimes you worry about things you don't need to worry about. But he's also saying he's there every step of the way and you're never alone. So, and also just don't get down on yourself, honestly. Life can be difficult, so you don't need to make it harder by being hard on you. But yeah, he's proud of you is what I'm getting. Oh, thanks, Paula. Good morning. Okay. Rachel Williams 124 asks, who are their guides, please? So there's a couple of different, I'll dive into it. So the first thing I'm hearing is like sometimes we have like these just individual guides who they're not random, of course, but they're just like, they're not like super well known, like, yes. I mean, you do have those guides too, like where there's guides like, oh, I'm trying to give an example. So let me do this. Let me give the example that are actually your guides here. So pretty much what they're showing me for you is like you do have a lot of different spirit guides from a lot of different cultures that were previously incarnate and human. And it's not so you, it's not, when I say this, I don't mean absorb energy, I mean absorb information. What they're saying is it's so you absorb information and learn more quickly, essentially. But they guide you through a lot of different scenarios as well. The Pleiadians are showing up as like you work with the Pleiadians a bit. They come in and activate you is what they're saying, and kind of open you up. Of course, Archangel Michael's there. Archangel Michael is a good one, but he's there. And so you do have some of those guys where they might have individual names if you dug into it. For me, or, to help connect with them. For me, when I started channeling my guides more and I asked like, what is a name for them? They're like, we don't have names up here. You know that. But eventually they'd give me a name just so, because names can be helpful when you're trying to connect, when you're incarnate and you're used to societies with names and stuff. That being said, who else are your spirit guides right now? Fully Fly's good. Like some of them are more like they were philosophers. And you do have a team of angels as well, and that's just something to keep in mind as well for your guides. So let's see, we have a lot of people from different cultures. You have Archangel Michael, you have the Pleiadians. Also the Buddha is showing up as like, as the Ascended Master Buddha. He's showing up as one of your guides as well, Rachel Williams. And don't take any of these like you need to praise and worship any of them, if that makes sense. To me, when it comes to, I don't know if I need to say this, but I'll say it. When it comes to working with like spirit guides or angels or deities or source even, it's like, source is you and you are source. And so it's like working with your friends instead of these, and yes, they are all knowing and infinitely intelligent and infinitely wise. And so it definitely behooves you to honor that and respect that and listen to them when you're getting messages. Otherwise, it just, in my experience, when I don't listen at all, I always wish that I'd listened. But for some reason I want to say that as well. Like you don't need to like worship these beings, and you don't need to like put them on like 20 pedestals above you. I think you can honor the nature of the relationship and what they are. But they're more like friends, at least in my experience. So I hope that helps. But for some reason there's the words like a lot of ancient wisdom with your guides, which is interesting. But I hope that helps, Rachel Williams. That's like at least a starting point with like some of the guides that are around you. So let's see. Hey Texas Jess, how's it going? Liza E. So any messages from your guides? Are any of your chakras blocked? I get no, none of your chakras are blocked. If you were to work on your chakras, your crown chakra is the first, one they're talking about that would be good for you to focus on. So I guess the top two, crown and third eye, is what they're saying. But there's nothing like serious is what I'm getting at the moment for you. As far as messages from your guide, let's see here. They want me to get a card deck. Friends. I don't know why Dora the Explorer is playing in my... The song is playing in my head. So for Liza... Okay, that's the card. So Our Lady of the Sacred Hearth coming out here first and foremost for you. So let's see. The words I instantly get for you are rearranging. Interestingly enough, they're just showing things rearranging. So give me a second to see what messages come through for you. For this card here. It's really interesting because the way they're showing it for you, it's like they're showing this building, but this building is like changing shape, and like this doorway is like changing shape with this building, and it's kind of like your life is changing shape, essentially, is like the first message that I'm getting for you regarding this card. I'm also getting, they're showing me this visual of new doorways for you to walk through. So let me see what that's about here. Like, it's almost like showing me like as this visual. It's like you're walking down this hallway and there's no doors on the sides. Like there's no doors. You're just like, where do I go? But you're going to start to get to this point where there's like a lot of doors to walk through, or a lot of changes, a lot of opportunities essentially coming up for you. So just keep your head in a swivel. You can't miss it, honestly. You're just going to know there's a new experiences available to you. I would definitely go for them. It's definitely a good idea, essentially. Another thing they're showing me, interestingly enough, is just the peace sign in my intuitive visuals as I have my eyes closed here, and I'm getting these messages for you. So what's the peace sign about here? Pretty much what they're saying is like, what they're showing me was like, if you're grounding, like connecting with the earth and grounding more, you're going to have more peace, essentially. Peace is on the way in general, but I would definitely, like, they're kind of indicating that grounding would be something that helps lead to that more in your life. Even if it's just like 10 minutes every day, getting your feet on the bare earth, or just doing a quick grounding exercise, that would help, is pretty much something they're showing me, which is good. Let's see what else they have to say for you. Fully flat is good. Okay, Our Lady of Promise coming out here. I'm gonna unmirror this so you can. I was like, okay. Our Lady of Our Lady of Promise coming out here for you. For some reason, the thing they're really pointing my eyes to is the light blue on this card for you. So let me see what that's about here. To me, the light blue, and this is the Mother Mary Oracle card deck, but light blue in particular is a color that is associated with Mother Mary. It's also, to me, they're giving me the word miracles. It's associated with miracles. And you might have thought miracles will never come, but if you keep going, especially if you're following your heart, this is going to sound a little cheesy, I guess, but if you're following your heart and you're following your intuition and you're like essentially going for like your dreams or like what you want to do, like miracles can happen, miracles will happen. And even if you don't feel like you have that, let's see here. Okay, pretty much what they're saying is it's a reminder that miracles are real and they can happen and you are going to have them, essentially. And that's something that's coming up for you, essentially. So that's it. I'm going to see if there's any other messages for you that would be for your highest good that you need to know about. So, interestingly enough, one of the crystals they're showing me is Tanzanite, and that is a good crystal for intuition. So give me 1 second to see what the message is regarding the Tanzanite. Okay, weirdly enough, one of the exercises they're showing me, and it's from I can't remember if it's from Crystal Angels 444 by Alana Fairchild, but it's like this exercise where, and maybe that would be a good book to check out. I can't remember which crystal it was. It wasn't Tanzanite, but pretty much what they did is in this exercise, you would take your third eye and you'd put it on the earth, essentially, and you could do it on your floor and just intend that it was the earth. Or that you're connecting with the earth. And you were just asking the earth essentially to pull out any energies that weren't for your highest good, that didn't belong with you. And it was like, they would like pull it out of your third eye, essentially. So anything that wasn't for your highest good would like be pulled out of your third eye. And I can't remember if in the exercise you would then ask the earth to fill you replace those energies with energies that work for your highest good. But that might be a good one for you, and that could be like healing for the third eye, which is they're kind of giving me the term third eye healing. Nothing serious, by the way. It's just like that might boost your intuition and be a healing exercise for you if you're able to, if that makes sense based on what I said. And if you don't know that book, it is a pretty cool book. I don't think I have it anymore, but there's some good exercises and cool things in that book too. So I hope that makes sense and is helpful for you. As far as messages for you right now. Hi, you are amazing. Thanks for everything you do. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Okay, back to the Q&A. Anna Starborn asks, will their mom ever realize how toxic they are? Yes, slowly. It's not going to be an overnight thing. They might eventually graduate out of being as toxic as they've been and slowly move out of it. Well, are they gonna move out of it? Yeah. Before they fully realize how toxic they've been, if that makes sense. Like she might have these what I'm being shown are she has these realizations that, she sees other people around her that are toxic or other people that are toxic. And then she looks at herself and she's like, oh, I guess that was me. And on some level, she does realize it as something they're saying as well. Not everybody always has the tools to fix it, essentially. And that might be what she's rubbing up against some ways, is she's not sure how to change, but she will. So the short answer is yes, but I want to clarify something really quickly because my body pendulum did go no, yes on this one. So what was the no, yes about? It's just going to be a slow process is what they're clarifying, like they said. So I hope that helps. I know that's not fun to deal with. Okay, Caitlin C. Smith asked, any messages from their guides or brothers? So yes, okay, we're pulling a card. Well, what deck would be? Let's see here. So any messages from your guides or brother here? The first words there, okay. First card that came out here is Our Lady with the moon at her feet. This actually links in with the High Priestess tarot card for me, just because the High Priestess in the tarot card is also depicted with a moon at her feet. So let me see what the messages are with these ones here. The first thing they're showing me is there's a lot that's going to be unveiled, essentially. The High Priestess is often associated with a veil of some sort, whether it's the veil behind her or in some card deck she's wearing some type of thin veil or something like that. But there is going to be a lot that's unveiled for you. And I'm getting the words that weird TikTok sound where it's no one's going to know. They're going to know, whatever that is. I keep getting this, what they're saying in that tone is oh, she's going to know. So what is that about here? It's interesting because the visual, when I went to check in on that, they show you, but you're walking on bare feet on the earth, and it's kind of nighttime, and you walk, and then you do put your moon on this moon that's at your feet, interestingly enough, and as you do so, your intuition kind of sparks awake more. And of course, you become more of who you are. So I'd say your intuition is waking up, and that's part of your destiny. Interestingly enough, is something I'm hearing is your intuition to wake up more, and just for you to use that, even if it's just more in your daily life, essentially. And that's actually something you need. Is something I'm getting is just more intuition, and that's not something you need to freak out about if you don't feel you totally have it yet. Where it's oh, but I don't have it. That's okay. You're exactly where you need to be right now. But they're just letting you know, that's part of what's coming up for you, essentially. Because you do have a higher calling, essentially, is what they're saying. So let me see what else would be for the highest good to occur or bring through for you. How about that? There is also just a message of don't ignore your intuition when you know what it's telling you and what's going on. That's just a recipe for a disaster, essentially, is what I'm getting. Anything else for you at this time here? Pull another card here. Our Lady of Growth Assured here. Pretty much what I'm getting for you is don't stunt your growth by being around the wrong people. That's the message I hear as I pull that card for you. And it's like, it doesn't mean you need to cut everyone out of your life. It's more like, don't be hanging around the wrong crowd if you know they're not the right crowd. Like, you can give yourself some space from them. You can invite in new people for you. But again, with Growth Assured, you are going to be growing really rapidly this year, essentially, is what I'm getting, and especially like growing out of old patterns that aren't for your highest good. But there's a lot of grace in this is something they're showing me. Like the doves are kind of popping up as I'm doing this. And there are doves on the card as well, but there's a doves on a lot of these cards, so give me a second to see what they want me to bring through regarding the doves here. Pretty much what they're saying is there's grace in the transformation, like as you wake up more, as you become more intuitive. And they're kind of showing, it's interesting because they're showing you with like a tray of rocks, and like you're kind of rocking this tray of rocks back and forth, and what they're saying is like your rockiness is going to go away, essentially, if you've been encountering rockiness, or it's been any type of rocky road or anything like that here. But essentially, like going back to that first message, like you're going to be seeing clearly, essentially. As far as, would it be nice good for me to bring through anything from your brother? Let me see here. Weirdly enough, one of the first messages I get is you're not going to be missing anything, whether that's you're afraid of missing out on life, or you're afraid of missing signs or synchronicities, or missing, let me see here, I'm getting even something weird like missing people. You're not going to be missing what's meant for you, essentially, is one of the messages coming through, which is good. And they keep showing me giraffe over and over again, so I want to see what's up with giraffe spirit animal for you here at this time here. Pretty much what they're showing me is giraffes have like these long necks, but sometimes they have difficult reaching things that are like on the ground because of their long legs. They're showing me that. But they have an easy time going up to the trees and like eating and like grazing from like a tree or something high up. So let me finalize this message for you here. It's this weird message, like just because something seems easy or seems like lower than like a higher aspiration, I suppose, doesn't mean it's actually going to be easy, if that makes sense. It's like, sometimes if you're meant for something else that's up here, it's actually more difficult to get what's down here, essentially, is weirdly what they're showing me. Anything else on that, or can I get more clarity on it, please? It's kind of a message of don't sell yourself short in a weird roundabout way in some ways. So hopefully that makes sense for you. And I think that was for Caitlin C something, but those are a lot of the messages I'm getting for you. And they want me to, these two have been really popular recently as far as coming through, but they want to come through and they're being really emphatic, but elephant spirit animal also coming through for you. And pretty much what they're saying is like, once you get going on the path that's for you, nothing's going to stand in your way. Like there might be temporary obstacles or redirections just to make sure you're on the right journey within the realm of that right direction, if that makes sense. But in some ways you're actually really unstoppable. So that's what I'm getting for you, interestingly enough. But they're kind of saying to move on to the next question. So I hope that was helpful. Hope that made sense for you. And was good for you. But for some reason I just keep getting the message, you're not missing anything. You're not missing anything. Okay. So a general reading for May for Starlight Worker. Okay, excuse me, let me see what comes through for you. Fully class good, of course. Okay, let me see here. Our Lady of the Sacred Sun came out as the card for you, first and foremost, for May. And interestingly enough, like the first thing they showed me was like giving birth, essentially. But I do feel like this probably leans more towards like a project instead of literally giving birth. potentially a creative project. So let me see what else they want to say about that here. Pretty much what they're saying, and this might just be general, it might not just be for May, but if you ever like release something into the world and something happens where it flops or it doesn't do as well as you want it to do, they're just saying like keep going, like create anew. There's better on the other side of that, essentially here. So let me see what other messages they give me for you for May. Fully fly is good here. One thing they're kind of showing me is like there is like a really strong light energy in May for you. Like there is a lot of light coming in general, like to the collective, but they're really showing this light like hitting you pretty strongly, and like especially like they're showing it hitting your heart center really strongly. So you might have a bit of a purge in May, essentially, is pretty much what they're telling me, like along with that strong light coming in where it causes you to purge a bit more strongly. But on the other side of that, like you're more awakened, you're feeling more yourself, and you're just feeling more clean in general is something they're talking about. The other thing they're showing me in May is it's almost like you waking up from a nap. This is metaphorically, of course. But it's almost like you see your life a lot more clearly. And it's weird. You know how you might fall asleep? Let me see how they want me to give this message. If you fall asleep on a road trip, and you wake up and you're somewhere completely different, it might just be one of those moments of clarity where you just kind of like take a second and pause and look, and you're like, everything's completely different, essentially. But it's actually a good thing because you're closer to your destination, essentially. So if you feel like in any way, shape, or form you metaphorically wake up from a nap and just feel like different and feel kind of groggy and like what's going on with everything, like it's literally just like you're still traveling to your destination. And I kind of get this message for May for you. Like, it's not a destination month, it's a travel month. What does that mean? Let me clarify. Sometimes there's these big landmark events that happen in certain months, if that makes sense. May is kind of more like you're cruising through everything, if that makes sense. So there might be some changes or redirection or some new ideas or just some waking up, but is there anything like super landmark happening in May for you? I don't feel like May is going to have anything super landmark, but soon after is what I'm getting, like either in like June, July, August. They said summertime, so I'm going to just say June, July, August, because sometimes in the southern hemisphere it's like winter, and everyone's like, wait, does that mean winter too? I'm like, yes. So that being said, like soon after, like probably in June, July, August, you're going to have more of the landmark things happen. And there's just a message of patience on that. The other thing, so what else is coming in for you for May here? So I kind of tried to like just put my deck down and draw a new card, and like it kind of fumbled, and this card wanted to come out, and it was the same card that came out in the last reading, but my guys are saying this card needs to come out for this one too. It's Our Lady with the Moon at her feet. So what is the message for you in May regarding Our Lady at the Moon with the moon at her feet, essentially here? It's interesting. One of the messages they're showing for May is, and it seems a little unrelated with the card, but they're showing like a car traveling, like moving, and like this wheel kind of like falls off the car and it kind of like hits the ground, and it kind of has to stop. And the message is like, if you break down in May, you're not actually breaking down. It's more like sometimes there's things we don't realize we need to heal in ourselves that like kind of rear their ugly heads, I suppose you could say. And it's like that breakdown is your opportunity to like get your car fixed totally right, and be like good for the road ahead, as opposed to breaking down at a critical moment where it would have been like really devastating and you would have lost a whole lot, essentially is what they're saying. So if you do have anything that feels like a breakdown, which might tie back to that purge that was, they were talking about earlier, it's really your opportunity just to like get your ducks in a row and get yourself together. And it's not really a breakdown. It's more of a healing, essentially, is also what they're saying. So I would take it as a blessing and not as a like everything's going wrong. And I don't even think you're going to feel that way, like everything's going wrong based on what I'm getting. I think it's going to be more like the words I actually hear are like this again, like when this happens. But so just recap, it's the message of any breakdowns are an opportunity just to get things in a row so you're good for the path ahead, essentially. I do feel like you have new people coming into your life, but that's actually not May. That's actually in the like June, July, August period as well as something I'm getting. And May might be a little bit boring in some ways because they're giving me the word boring, unfortunately. But sometimes that's a good thing. I just take it as like if can you guys give me different words for that? They're just kind of saying like if things do seem calm in a boring way, like try not to judge it or see it as boring, just see it as like a calm and kind of accept that and welcome that. It'll just kind of lift you above the boredom if you feel bored, and May is something they're talking about as well, which will be good here. I'll say it just because they're kind of reiterating it, unless they want me to say something else here. But going back to the first message here, for some reason, the way they're phrasing it is, you didn't mess up if there's something you did that didn't prosper. It's just showing you that there's something else for you, essentially. So I hope that makes sense and helps. There's one more thing they want to get to, so 1 second here. Okay, this is what's coming for you. I think this was for Starlight Worker. Our Lady of Great Power, you're going to be stepping into your power more is what I'm hearing is when I first pull this card here. Beyond that, what else would be highest and best to bring through for you on this one? Weirdly enough, like the spirit animal that's showing up is like a boar. Like they're showing me a boar, like with the tusks. So let me see where they want me to go with all this here. Where they kind of want me to go with like the boar is like the boar is kind of an underrated animal. It's like it's kind of smaller, but people who know about the boar, they don't mess with the boar because you just don't. Like they have tusks, they'll charge at you, they'll F your stuff up, essentially. And I kind of get this message like for you, like you're underestimated in some ways, but you really shouldn't be, because you do, of course, like you do have a great power within, essentially, is what I'm getting. But beyond that here, sometimes it's a gift to be underestimated because people don't see you coming until it's too late is something. So take that as a blessing, and in some ways that can be your camouflage or your cover, is that if you feel underestimated, that you're underestimated, because then you can kind of come up and like do what you can actually do and surprise people instead of I get a weird message of like having things be taken from you because people are scared of you or things. I don't know, weird message. But anything else for you that would be for you guys good at this time? Pretty much the other message they're giving me is like a glow up. I know this was supposed to be for May and it kind of like traipsed around to beyond May, but anything for May, I'd say you might be starting a glow up in May or something along those lines, because they are giving me the words glow up. So anything else on that here? Okay, another message that they have for you about May is just pay attention to the people around you in May, because they're going to be showing you who they are. Like it's going to be very difficult for people to conceal their true colors around you, weirdly enough. So you're going to be going a little bit deeper with some people, learning certain lessons with people. And of course that just sets you up from the future. When you get that clarity, you know how to act around that person in the future, or you know, things like that. So that's it. I hope that was helpful. Hope that made any sense for you, Starlight Worker. And I will just move on to the next question here. Excuse me. Excuse me. Your weird brother asks, are they a good mom and how can they improve? Yes, overall is what I'm getting for you. Yeah, yes, overall. So how can you improve here? Weirdly enough, the message I get is like they're showing me the sacral chakra and they're saying being more emotional. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. So I want to see if they give a bit more of clarity for you about that one. pretty much what they're just saying is like, hey, the more accepting you are of your children, the better. It's common, well, maybe hopefully it's not common, but what they're saying is it can be common that sometimes parents or moms might want their kids to be a certain way or to be like them or to connect more deeply. But it's okay if you don't, as long as you're there as a mom to your best capacity, because you're giving them the life lessons they need by you showing up as you, that they signed up for as a soul when they incarnated, essentially. And that doesn't mean I'm condoning, and you're not abusive. I'm getting you're not abusive. It doesn't, by the way, for anyone else listening, it doesn't mean I'm condoning being abusive or anything like that. I think the better you're trying to be as a parent, the better, because that's a huge role and it makes an impact. But beyond that, let me see how else you can improve here. What else they're saying is, and I feel like this advice can improve any area of your life. Opening your intuition will help you as a mom because you'll know what to say, is essentially what I heard. So anything else that would help you as a mom at this time? And just being more open with your kids, like expressing your truth, what you feel, what you know about situations, and kind of getting a weird message like don't be too hands-off. And you probably never really want to be the helicopter parent because can be a tricky position for the kid as well. But I don't know if I'd be so hands-off that you're anti-helicopter parents and you're flipping it too far in the other way, which I don't think you are, but for some reason that advice is coming through. Anything else here that would be for your highest good here? You probably already do this, but just let your kids know you love them. Let them know you're there from them, but try to show that through your actions and not just through your words, if possible, in how you show up for them, if that makes sense. Any advice from a source on that one? And in some ways, what I also hear is like, hey, like she's doing great. Don't overthink it. Like just keep showing up. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some starting points on how to improve for you. Let's see here. Corin Marie 87 asks, is this the move they're talking about? Is it a good move for them and will they be happy? Yes and no, but mostly yes. Good move, yes. Will you be happy? Yes, you might have certain bumps in the road or dips, essentially, is what they're talking about regarding that, but overall it grows you into a happy person is something I'm hearing. So I hope that makes sense and is helpful for you. But yes, it's a good move, essentially, is what I get. Okay, next question. Going through the Q&A. You on HSIV asked, any message and why does the night scare me so much? So why does the night scare you so much? Here. They're showing you as a kid at night being scared is one thing. Like it's kind of something about childhood is part of why you're scared at night is one of the messages I'm getting first and foremost here. Past life related? No. I don't get it's past life related. I actually get it's more ancestral leaning, but it really started as a kid is something I'm getting. And I get like a weird thing, like I don't know if you were taught to be afraid of the dark, but it's just something you're meant to heal, or afraid of the night, sorry. And there's a lot of things ancestrally that can come up with that. If you kind of think of like when were certain predators out, you know, in the nights, when were spooky stories told, like in the night. So there might be some things ancestrally that have to do with that is essentially what I'm getting for you as far as why the night scares you so much. I don't know, particularly if any of your ancestors like died in the night or like out in the night or something like that, that might be part of that. Excuse me. As far as any messages for you in general, my cards just fell everywhere, so I'm not going to pull cards. No, they want to pull the top card from the pile now. Our Lady who sends the angels. So let me see what this is about here. It's just a card. It's not just a card. In this instance, for you, the first message I'm getting for you regarding this card is it's about asking for help. That's both from people, but also from the universe, from your spirit guides, from the angels. Sometimes all you need to do is ask for help from source, from angels, from your spirit guides, and like certain things in your life can resolve if you're in the space where it's for the highest good for that to happen and you're ready for that to happen, essentially. And I'm getting this weird message of don't negate the power of asking for help, whether it's from the angels, from spirit guides, from source. Both for me and for other people I've known, and just some things I've also heard other channelers say, channelers that I respect. Pretty much what I've heard is like, I've had things where I just ask the angels, I'm like, angels, source, help me with this, like I'm not sure how to resolve this, and then it just resolves really quickly. And I've had other people I've talked to who they're like, they'll have something come up and they'll be like, angels, like source, like spirit guides, like help me with this, and then it just becomes a non-issue, like it just gets resolved. So don't underestimate the power of asking for help, especially if you're someone who works with your spirit guides and with the angels and with source, and you're doing good in the world, or you're doing your best. Like, don't underestimate that, is one thing that I'm getting with this, first and foremost. Beyond that here, another card here. I'm gonna shuffle this really quickly here. Whew. Interesting day today. This is the card. Okay, we already got this one. Our Lady of Promise coming out again here, so let me see what this card is for you. You. I'll just call you, because you have U's in your username. So they're putting my eyes to the egg. They're saying it's about the egg in this basket, or this nest, excuse me. There's 2 eggs in the nest, and there's one kind of floating above the nest. So let me see what the message is for you regarding this egg thing here. Weirdly enough, like, I do get, like, and this is a metaphor, of course, like, you're gonna be hatching soon. They said, like, a weird phrase. Okay. What do you want me to say then? Pretty much what I'm getting is, like, you're going to be hatching and becoming your own. I'm curious if that's just in the energies right now in general in some ways. But I'm also getting this message, like, you're going to be hatching out of, like, past life stuff. And, like, sometimes the message I'm getting for you right now, and I'm not always a huge karma person, but when my guys bring it through, I'll bring it through. Like, sometimes you're just going through, like, karma, past life karma stuff, and you're just wrapping that up, and you're just going through a clearing or a healing. And then on the other side of that, things start to get good, and, like, you're pure, and, like, you're ready for what the world throws at you, essentially, or ready to take on what you're here to do. So you're kind of coming out of that phase of wrapping things up, essentially, and you're going to be moving forward, of course, into a new one where, like, things start either going more your own way, or things start just progressing more quickly, or things are just, like, not as difficult as they have been, essentially, is what I'm getting. So I hope that makes sense for you. I'm going to pick up my cards and probably drink some water too. All right. So let's see what else would be for that. Getting it to 11th house of healing is staying in Texas in their highest good. Yes, but not forever is what I'm getting. And you saw my body pendulum kind of go back and forth. And what that means is, like, when it goes like no, yes, whatever it ends up on is the final answer. That's the overall answer. Like, yes, it's for the highest good, but the no's that they were throwing in there was like, it's not for the highest good to stay there for, like, long term, I suppose you could say, is what I'm getting. It's a great place for now. Gets the job done. You're supposed to be there, but eventually you're probably going to want to move. So I hope that helps. 11th house of healing. It is the right move to stay, is something they're saying if you are considering staying for now, just not forever. Corin Marie 87 asks, what's holding back weight loss? Body feels broken. Of course, legal disclaimer, I'm not a doctor nor a licensed physician. What I get is it's emotional. And emotional healing could be something that helps you release the weight, is essentially what I'm getting for you regarding that. And there might be multiple things that play into it. And of course I have empathy for that, because it can be difficult when you're trying and it's just like, why, when you're trying to lose weight and it's just not happening. But I do get it's more emotionally based. And once you start healing that, more than likely you're going to start losing weight. So I hope that helps. And learning any form of healing that resonates for you, if you feel called towards, with whatever instructor feels best to you, because they're talking about potentially learning Reiki or energy work just to help start to move that. If you haven't already learned that, just from anyone who resonates with you, whoever works best for you, just to start moving that energy and start some of that healing and some of that stuff that might start to shift things and help. That might be a starting point with that. I don't really get your body is broken, but I do get you are healing on multiple levels, which can definitely lead to that feeling. But I hope that helps. I hope that gives you an answer that helps you for that. Okay. Lage Vajay asked, hopefully I'm saying that right, do they have spiritual gifts? How can they develop them? Yes, they're kind of starting with clairsentience as one of your spiritual gifts. Definitely intuitive, with the clairvoyance essentially is what I'm getting first and foremost. So anything else that you have gifts wise? Mediumship could be a gift for you as well. You don't have to delve into that one right away. That could be something you just keep in your back pocket until you're ready to delve into it. Excuse me. If you want to develop your gifts, there's a couple different ways. Usually one of the things my guides will talk about is practicing your gifts, like showing up every day, pulling cards every day, practicing doing readings for friends. I don't think you need to do energy healing if you don't feel called to it, but I do get that getting an energy healing session could also help to open those up, because that can be another thing that just moves the energy, unlocks past life gifts, unlocks different gifts and abilities that you have, and like just moves away any beliefs or things that are in the way of those things uncovering and developing essentially, and they can just spark them. For anyone who is interested in learning energy work, that's one thing I've found is like the attunements with energy healing and facilitating energy healing and showing up for those sessions. Like, one, the attunements open you up more and uncover your gifts, and sometimes they can, add and boost your gifts. Well, a lot of the times they can boost your gifts actually, if not all the time. But like Reiki attunements, other energy work modalities. So if you ever feel called to it and you have an instructor you feel drawn to that works for you, that you want to learn from, and you feel called to that, it can be good. If you don't want to learn it, getting an energy healing session can be a good alternative to at least start doing that and helping on that level. But I've found, like, along with attunements and things like that, my gifts would increase. And then as I would show up and do the sessions, I'd be getting more practice. And two, my gifts would increase. Just both through the practice and also through showing up and being in a position where source and the universe can work through you intuitively to do the healing. And what else would help you expand your gifts at this time here? Just staying balanced in general for you would also, like, they're showing your chakras and balancing them out. Like, staying balanced would also help you and improve your abilities as well. And like when you're coming from that balanced state, like everything just flows properly. It'll just be easier to be intuitive. Does it get to a point where, let me see what they want me to say here. It can get to the point where you're just always intuitive all the time. And in fact, I believe I heard it from a Lee Harris workshop that he did, and it was like an Own Your Intuition workshop. And one of his quotes from him is, "You're all being intuitive all of the time," which makes sense because like you're in a situation, you're picking up on the energies. But the more you're practicing it and honing it in and working with your intuitive visuals or channel messages, however you work, the more that's going to be a constant for you. And sometimes you'll just hit these levels where they like uptick and like they just hit that new level, and you just have that constant too. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you're for some reason it's like reminds me of guitar, and guitar is something I spent years learning. And guitar was interesting because you would see gradual improvement over time, but there would be things like maybe you'd learn like one new thing, and all of a sudden like your technique would just be like poof, it would just like hit this whole new level like really quickly, and then you'd start moving up from that level until you hit that next increase. So it can work in a number of different ways, but that's just something they're showing me as well. Sometimes you just practice until you have that click, or something happens where you hit that sharp increase. And then like your gifts increase and you have that essentially. Hopefully I'm not just talking in circles right now, but what else do you need to know about? And by the way, don't limit your spiritual gifts to just what I said so far. These are our starting points. And there's more to it as well. I think like the clairs are a good way to start understanding it. Excuse me. And like things like channeling or mediumship or things like that. But don't limit yourself to just like, oh, I'm clairvoyant and that's all it's like, no, because you can awaken the other clairs, and you might start with a strong suit in like getting visuals while someone else is stronger in feeling energy. But you can awaken those other faculties to the degree you're ready for and that you're meant to by continually showing up and opening up essentially. Anything else that would help you develop your spiritual gifts at this time? And it's going to sound boring, but I would definitely just like practice your intuition. Like, oh, what should I eat? Like, should I eat this sandwich, or should I go to McDonald's? You're probably not going to get yes on McDonald's, by the way. That's really rare. But then you're showing up and practicing living intuitively in your life, and you're getting the feedback instantly if you're in the place to try it, whether it's you're trying it with a pendulum or a body pendulum, or just there's a thing from Access Consciousness that I don't think I was supposed to get into, so I apologize. I'll just say it really quickly because I already said it. It's like light versus heavy, and it's like what's true for you feels lighter, what's a lie feels heavy energetically, and then like, but you can also kind of feel into like how things will go if you make certain choices. Like, does it feel lighter to go to this restaurant instead of this one? Does it feel lighter to go on this date with this person instead of that person? And like you kind of learn how these different things feel, and you can make your choices from that. So a lot of different ways to be intuitive, but reining it back in, what would be high semester way to bring through for you, just to kind of start wrapping this up here. So again, a quick recap: pulling cards, getting energy work sessions would be good for you in opening your gifts up, staying balanced. And I was getting clairsentience, clairvoyance, and mediumship, interestingly enough, was showing up for you. Just don't limit yourself to those things. So clairsentience, again, feeling energy. Clairvoyance, to me, is like it's getting intuitive visuals. It's seeing things. It's getting, I suppose you could say, getting accurate visions too, but that could be part of it too. So anything else for you that you need to know at this time here? Okay, that's what I'm getting for you. So I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that was a good starting point for you at least. Just don't limit yourself. See those as starting points from which to expand. Next question. Jazz Meats, will they get success in their business, please? What I get is you can have business success, but there are things you're going to need to adjust, essentially. But if you're willing to make the adjustments as they come along and adjust how you're doing things, things are going to start flowing more and you'll have more success, essentially. So is that business you're working on now going to be successful? And the other thing they're saying is like, I am leaning towards yes. My body pendulum leaning towards yes, with like, will you get success in the business you're in? But they're also bringing through a message of like, don't be afraid to start other businesses on top of that one if you have the time and space to do so. If you hit a plateau of any sort with that business or you feel stuck. And you're not going to be stuck forever if you do get or do feel stuck with that business. But that's kind of what I'm getting first and foremost. And I do get you will be successful. Just keep pushing, essentially. So I hope that helps. Also, another message for you, Jasmine. Don't feel like you need to do things like everyone else. If you have a unique idea, one, don't share it with everyone under the sun, but, you know, research it. If you can test that idea, test it. What else do they want to say for you to help you with getting success here? But I just get this message for you, like doing everything like everyone else is just going to get you lost. But if you kind of take your own unique vantage point and approach, and you don't have to force this if you don't feel like you have this right away, let it develop organically, you're going to have a much easier time succeeding. So I hope that helps, Jasmine. Okay, next message. Spaghetti Leggy asks, why are they told they should start painting by their guides? One, it's expressive and it might unlock or unblock, whatever the term is. I'm not always keen on the words blocks. I'm not always keen on the word block, but it might unblock certain things and get things to flow a bit more. It's also like weirdly an activation, essentially, where why is it an activation here? It does allow spirit to work through you and onto the canvas or page in front of you, essentially. So it's also a way to get more in tune. They're also giving me the word freedom. So what's that about? For some reason, something about it leads to freedom or to you feeling more free. It's also just a great way to ponder life and get the realizations you need while you're like wrapped up in the flow of a creative process, essentially. So it can be healing in certain ways, especially if spirit is working through you to bring about the painting and to bring about any realizations. But I really, for some reason, see it unlocking things in you and like leading to freedom or just leading to higher realization. So I hope that helps, Spaghetti Leggy. And sometimes, you know, when our guides tell us to do things, it doesn't make sense until you do it and you're like, oh. Or sometimes it doesn't make sense till a while afterwards, but it always makes sense what they're saying eventually. Shelby by the Shore asks, are they on the right path for healing? I get yes, very. And I'm getting this message, like, you can't mess it up as long as you're open to healing. Now, let me give a slight disclaimer to that. Like, yeah, don't go do quote-unquote stupid things. Like, don't go jump off a bridge. Don't go, don't go seeking out drugs and stuff like that. But you are on the right path. It is, again, what was that quote? As long as you're open to healing, you can't really mess it up. As long as you're trying to move in that direction, essentially. But it is going to happen where you get more healed. And there's definitely like a lot more light on the other side of that. It's something they're showing me too, which is good. So I hope that helps. Mansby22, I don't think I answered you yet. Any advice or guidance for you? And if I did, I apologize. Let's see here. What would be the highest advice or guidance for Mansby2? Weirdly enough, they're starting off like the visual I get is like this color green, and then it kind of turns into this grass, and then you kind of like the visual I'm getting walks out onto this open field. And the first message I get for you is things are going to be opening up for you soon. more like if you felt restricted or confined or like you didn't have options, like that's gonna be opening up in a big way for you, essentially. So anything else for you that you need to know at this time? This must be a theme right now, honestly, because they're just screaming the words new life at me. And I'm like, oh, well, I brought that through for someone before. I don't know if I want to bring that through again. But they're like, then they just start yelling it at me. So I'm just going to roll with what I'm getting and just trust it, even if it came through before. But they are giving the words new life for you. And I want to see what that means for you here. This might be collective as well in some ways, because I feel like this has come through for other people. But what they're saying is in the next few years, like a new life is really going to be opening up for you, and it's kind of just like far away from the past, or it's almost like your past doesn't even matter. It's like a non-issue, like it doesn't hold you back in any way, shape, or form is something I'm getting. So in some ways you'll be getting freedom from the past, which is good as well, as far as some guidance is coming in for you. But as far as advice for you right now, let me see what I got here. The first thing that's showing up when I check in on advice for you, like cheetah spirit animal shows up. And pretty much what cheetah is talking about is like sprinting and like taking action and going quickly towards like, if you're going big or going for something, it's take action and move, essentially, is what I'm getting. You probably don't want to dilly-dally. As far as other advice for you, just know that you're divinely protected. It's definitely okay to take educated risks, and of course, like, be smart when I say that. So when I say take risks, it doesn't mean, take risks with the law legally or anything like that. It's more like investing could be taking a risk or something like that. And so let me see what they have to say about that. Just don't play it too safe, essentially, is what I'm getting. And that could be in relationships is also what they're talking about. Where it's like, don't play it so safe that you miss out on life and like relationships and what's for you. And that's a good way to stay stuck, is playing it too safe, essentially, is what I'm getting. But I feel like you'll be called out of that at the right time, called out of that shell, I guess you could say. But anything else that's coming out for you? What else would be good advice for you at this time here? I'm also getting a visual of like the spear. It's like a native kind of indigenous person, and they have this like wooden spear in their hand. But the highlight at first was like this wooden spear. So what's this about here? And like they're giving me the words again, and this kind of links in with what was already said, I think. Be not afraid is kind of what this indigenous person says. So where is this going here? I think it's a continuation of the last message, because like what they keep showing is this indigenous person like has this spear, and like with this spear he's able to fight off like a lion, or he's able to fight off like these big predator kind of animals. So it's kind of like, just be not afraid, you are protected, is kind of the message that's coming through. And you do have what you need to succeed, essentially. Like this native, all he needs is this wooden spear, and he can fight off like a lion. So it's like you don't need, you at least have what you need to get started on certain things if you don't feel like you have everything you need. But I feel like you do. So I hope that makes sense as well. Mansby is advice for you. So let me see what else is coming through for you fully. For that's good. Pretty much, we already brought through the message of new life, but I'm also getting the message new trajectory. And it's kind of like, sometimes there's these little shifts that you make in your daily life that you think don't make a difference. But if you make them, like your whole life improves drastically over the long haul. And it's kind of reminds me of this concept of compounding interest, where, if you continually put in money into an index fund, and this isn't financial advice, legally I think I have to say that, but that compounds over time. The theory goes, if you read up on it, it compounds over time with compounding interest, and you might start just putting in like a few hundred every month, but over 30 years that becomes like hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, because of the compounding interest. And it's kind of like these mini habits, or these little changes you make in your day-to-day life can compound and really change the direction of something. And another example is like, if you're sailing a ship, straight east from the United States, and maybe not straight east, but maybe you make an adjustment where you're headed towards Europe, but if you knock your ship like early on in the journey just a few degrees off, like to the right, all of a sudden you're ending up in like Africa, like somewhere completely different. So it's just it's kind of a reminder of like those small habits that you can change or make things better, whether it's healthy eating or exercise, or maybe it's just like if you're trying to write a book, it's showing, not that you're literally trying to do that as an example, like showing up every day and getting an hour of that done, as opposed to like waiting and like, oh, I'll do it next week, and then like next week comes, you're like, I don't feel like it, and then next week comes and you're like, I don't feel like it. So it's like if you're showing up and doing that consistently, it can really change the course of things, essentially, is what I'm getting as advice for you as well. So anything else that would be for your highest good that you need to know at this time? That's kind of it at this moment as far as what I'm getting for you right now. So thanks, Texas Jess. So I hope that was helpful for you. I think that was from Mansby, right? And I hope that made sense, and I hope that helped. You're welcome. Okay. Query UIOP3234 asks, how does God show love for them? Let's see. Interestingly enough, I want to see if there's like a specific answer for you on this one. It's a weird answer, but I'm getting this message like every day through the little things and the big things. And like the song that started playing, and it was actually a song. So Lee Harris is a channeler, but he also like launches music and stuff too. And one of his songs is like, I think it's Life Holds Me or Light Holds Me. And it just kind of starts out like, every day I wake, light holds me. Every day I wake, life holds me. It's like something like that, like the way they kind of showed it. So it's kind of like he always does in some ways. And I'm going to get into more specifics for you as well. But for some reason, this is what's coming through. Or it's like if you think of like how all the atoms and molecules like hold themselves together in just the right way that life can be sustained, or how the earth like perfectly revolves around the sun so like life can exist. And there's other things. It's like how the earth provides like the other thing they're showing me or reminding me of is there's this concept, not a concept in herbalism. What people have found, or it was in a book that I read that I thought was really fascinating, is when someone is going to get sick, when they're, you know, in an area where they're about to get sick, about 6 months beforehand, especially if it's a serious illness, the herbs or plants that are the medicine for that sickness will start growing in that area for that person, or for what's about to happen there. It's really interesting. And so like when that sickness hits, like that medicine is there for them. And that's something that I read in an herbalism book, or someone I was dating read in an herbalism book that they shared with me that I thought was fascinating, where it's kind of like in a lot of ways life is taken care of, and there is this infinite intelligence and infinite wisdom that underrides all of it. And you can see that play out in manifestation. You can see that play out in just how you might be divinely protected in your day-to-day, where maybe you get distracted by a phone call and you're 2 minutes late getting to work, but there was a car accident right there and you would have been a part of it. Beyond all that, how else does God show love for you, specifically? I wish I was getting more specific answers, but like I just keep getting messages like every breath, like every breath you take, like existence, who you are, like who you get to be, what you get to experience. And part of what's happening right now with the shift of consciousness is like, there is going to be less suffering, like there is going to be less struggle. But as a collective, we're still releasing those things and getting them out of our system and our collective systems and the energies. So things will be moving in a more light-filled direction, like a very light-filled direction, and away from just some of like the control and power abuse and manipulation and things you might have seen on the world stage. So if you ever question it in the moment, just look at where things are headed, or ask to see where things are headed overall, and just see what is shown to you as well. The other thing I'll recommend, I don't need to say this, they're saying, but it's kind of popping in my head, so I'll say it, is like you can just ask the universe to show you how loved you are, like ask God to show you how loved you are, and just see what shows up. like as a manifestation for them showing that, whether it's like maybe your mom calls you and says like, hey, I love you so much, and then they give you a gift card or something, I don't know, or it's just like something that you were really worried about just works out. And so for some reason I just keep getting like it's in the little things and it's in the big things and it's in all of existence and it's in the fact that we're here. And in a sense, love is the backbone of the universe. And it was really interesting because the person I'm dating channeled a message from their guides that I thought was really interesting as well. And I've heard other channelers say kind of similar things, as where it's like love is the light of consciousness. Or like love, because like love, when we conceptualize it on a human level, where we talk about like, you know, that rip roaring hormones flowing, like super attracted kind of thing. It's like, it's not, I mean, it can be love, but it's like there's one concept from a book called Being You, Changing the World Is Now the Time. And it's by Dr. Dane here, and he does access consciousness. And if you've been watching my lives a lot, you've heard me say it a lot. But one thing he talks about is like with love, like what does that even mean? Like there's so many different people with so many different definitions of what love is and what it means and what people do when they show that they love you and what people say. And it's like the other thing he said is like, it's for him and his point of view, he was like, it's possible for you to love someone and judge them at the same time, or for someone to love you and judge you at the same time. But when you're in gratitude for someone, there's no judgment, or when you're in appreciation, there's no judgment. So his argument was like, he didn't like the word love, essentially. So, but that's not what this is, and I kind of got off topic, honestly. If you're willing to tune into God energetically, you can also just feel God's love for you, or if you just right now you just ask to feel the love, the unconditional love the universe has for you energetically, because you can get any energy from source. So we could just do it right now and just sit and be like, okay, I asked to feel, you know, sources, God's, the universe's love for me right now. Thank you. And you're asking for the energy of that, so you feel it. And then you'll probably feel a lot of love surround you and feel very loved, and maybe you'll even cry. But that's another thing you can sit with and ask about. Hey, XXT. So I hope that helps and makes any sense. And I know typically I'd bring through something more specific. That's just not what was coming through for that. So I hope that was helpful nonetheless. Bahama Vibes. What is my spirit animal? So there are multiple, and it is interesting because there are certain discretions that I'll at least provide where it's like, well, I'll just get into it, see how they want me to explain it here. What is your spirit animal right now? One of the ones showing up, interestingly enough, first and foremost for you is a jackal, which is not, let's see what jackal is about here for you. So what's with jackal for you? I would probably Google it. I'm not super familiar with jackal, but I'll see what he's helping you with. What is jackal spirit animal helping you with here? In some ways, it's like surrounding yourself with the right people, or finding the right people to work with, essentially, is one thing jackal is helping you with, interestingly enough. Because I keep getting this term like strength and numbers. I can't remember if that's jackals or hyenas, but I just keep getting that term, so I'll say it. Anyway, so what else would be what is another spirit animal that's here with you right now here? Starfish is another one, and what starfish is about typically when starfish comes forward is like regeneration or potent healing, or healing really quickly. And it's pretty much starfish is helping you to heal is something I'm getting. I don't know what else is your spirit animal at this time here. The other one that's showing up is ladybug, interestingly enough, and it's about lightness. It's also about good luck. Weirdly enough, it's not my typical definition of ladybug, but the other one thing ladybug is bringing through for you is passion. And it could be the red on the ladybug, because red can be a color that symbolizes passion. But for some reason, ladybug is also helping you with passion and bringing more of that into your life, or helping you to live more passionately and in a lighter, freer, happier way, is pretty much what I'm getting with that. And you do have multiple spirit animals. When I do readings for people, like a lot of the times spirit animals do show up for them, like to help deliver messages, to just kind of be part of the reading. And they can like change over time. Like you'd have a spirit animal helping you for this right now, and then like, you know, another one showing up for another thing you're going through at this other time period. But then you have things like, I think it's power animals where you have them your whole life, or there's certain spirit animals that are there for you your whole life. Then there's totem animals, which are almost like, my understanding of it right now is a totem animal is it's kind of like, it's almost like it's a part of you, or like you could do a reading for someone and like about them and who they are through the totem animals that show up and who their totem animals are. There's different understandings I've heard of it, so that's like a loose understanding I'm throwing your way. But those are the 3 spirit animals for this reading that are showing up for you. And as far as like a main one that's kind of with you all the time here, Hawk is kind of showing up as a spirit animal for you, as far as more of like a mainstay. So I hope that helps, Bahama Vibes. Yeah, you're welcome. Marissa Celeste 89 asked if they should do a master degree, or if they should develop their gifts. The answer I'm getting right off the bat is both, because one does not hinder the other, and both will lead to a good place. Would it be for the highest good for you to do a master's degree instead of developing your gifts? Would it be for the highest good for you to develop your gifts instead of doing a master's degree? If you're gonna choose one or the other, what I get is developing your gifts. But if you can do both, to me, that feels like the lightest option, actually. So hope that helps, Marissa Celeste. Boop. Sophia Key asked, how do you establish the right guides? So, oh, thank you, Jem. I hope that book does whatever is for the highest good for it to do for you. Sophia Key. So I don't know why I clicked on it, or why that guided me to click on it. Because I'm not 100% sure I understand the question. For me, I don't know if I ever needed to, what's the best way for me to answer this here? I mean, for me, my guides were always just kind of there, and they would channel through the accurate information, and I'd, you could say, build a relationship with them from there and get to learn like what their voices sound like, what guides sound like how they deliver the messages for me. So I don't know if I ever had a moment where I don't think there's wrong guides, like you kind of have the guides you need around you. Let me see if they have a different way to answer your question that will help you here. Pretty much what I'm getting as an answer is like your guides are already with you. You just need to connect with them and get to know how to work with them that works for you. And that's probably the best way to go about it, instead of listening to other people like, oh, you need to establish this guide or establish that guide. If you want to work with a particular set of beings, like you can ask, like if you want to work with the Pleiadians, just ask to work with the Pleiadians, or just ask to work with the angels, or just ask them a question. Because, my guides, typically I work with a whole slew of beings is what they're saying. But I typically work with a lot of angels. I would say a lot of the times when I start talking about who I channel and who I'm connected to, they kind of jump in and be like, well, you work directly with Source and get, the information from Source. And so I'll get that answer as well. But there have been times where I was just like, maybe I was unsure about something, and I'd ask a particular being. I'd be like, okay, Pleiadians, what do you recommend I do? And they'd be like, if I was already asking the question to my guides, they're all going to give you the same answer or a similar answer that gives you the same answer, if that makes sense. Because when you're channeling, what I've found in my experience and my current understanding is, especially if your intention is to channel what's highest infinite wisdom, highest unconditional love, highest infinite intelligence, bringing through the highest and most fully accurate information, and that's your intention and that's your boundary, like it's all gonna line up. Like if I ask my house a question, because you can talk to your spirit guides, you can talk to deities, you can talk to Source, you can talk to your cat, you can talk to your body, you can talk to your house, you can talk to a tree. They all give the same answers. Like they all give answers of highest consciousness that are fully accurate in my experience. That's what I've found. So in some ways, like does it really matter what guides you establish? As long as it's of infinite intelligence, highest infinite wisdom, fully for the highest good, and you're setting the intention that that's it, and you're working with only that and getting the highest and most fully accurate information, I don't know if it matters. And it might, depending on who you are and where you're coming from, but that's another angle you could understand it from. I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense, and helps regarding where you're coming from. Yeah, I don't know. The other thing they're saying, as I started to scroll through the other Q&A questions, is like, you're going to work with the guides you're going to work with. It's already established is something I'm getting as well. So I hope that helps and makes sense regarding your question. Good B333 asked, is their third eye open or is it blocked? It's kind of neither, if that makes sense. And I think I understand why you're asking what you're asking, because I think a lot of readers or other people will jump into the terminology of like blocked, everything's blocked. But sometimes things aren't blocked. You're still opening it up, or you're still awakening it, or you're still developing it, if that makes sense. So it's, I would work on opening your third eye, not necessarily unblocking it. Both might help, and maybe to you those mean the same thing. To me, they don't. So let's see what would help you. I'd say your third eye is opening. So if that makes sense. So I hope that helps, Good B. Tamara, will Juan put effort into us when he gets home? I get yes, he will. Hey, Nano Nurse, I hope you're having a great day too. Thank you so much. Teak 222228 asks, what can they do that's best? Oh, thanks for the coins, Cyberboss, or the gold, whatever. Thank you. Teak 2 asks, what can they do that's best for them to open their third eye? What I'm getting for you is energy healing, like learning energy healing, just from whatever practitioner works for you. Because when you're working with that energy and developing that skill set, it does open you up. It opens your intuition, it opens your clairsentience up, and it gives you a tool to work with consistently that keeps opening you up and keeps healing, essentially. So that's one of the first things that I'm getting that would be best for you to do to open your third eye, whether it's learning Reiki or another modality that really calls to you that's energy based, would be great. And of course, it's the advice that comes through with this question all the time, which would be like, practicing it, keep showing up, pull cards. And I'll say it just in case someone needs to hear it. But one of the piece of advice I really liked that I've heard, and I already knew how to channel, so it's more just I heard this, maybe more for you guys who need to hear it, but especially with like learning to channel or channeling your spiritual team or spirit guides. If you're just starting out, if you're just newer to it, even if you show up with a notebook and you ask, a question like Lee Harris recommends, what does my soul want to tell me? And then just sit with, what are the messages that come through? What do you hear? What comes to you? Even if you do that exercise and the first time you try it, you don't hear anything, that's okay. Because what you're doing is you're practicing getting in the frequency of receiving messages, is the way he worded it, which I loved. And so eventually you do start to receive those messages. And it can be like, it can be like riding a bike in some ways, where it's like, how do you get messages? It's like, how do you ride a bike if no one shows you? Let me rephrase this. It's hard to like tell someone how to ride a bike by just telling them. Like, you kind of show them, like you give them the practice, like the parent like pushes the kid on the bike until they get the feel for it. They have the training wheels. And so it's like, once you get the feel for it, it's like, it's go time. Like, oh, that's what it's like. So you're kind of just opening, in a way that's for the highest good, and opening the door to receive those channel messages and those experiences until they happen, and you know what it's like, and you can keep going with them. And so even if you're just starting out and you just get a really simple message like, you are loved and you are going places, or everything's okay, everything's going to work out all right, and you're like, this isn't all the information I wanted on the 17th dimension about so and but that's coming right now. You're being calibrated to the experience of channeling, and so you're going to start out with that to calibrate you to receiving the messages. As though another way I've heard it talked about that I think is really helpful. So if anyone needed to hear that, I hope that's helpful. But that's what I'm getting for you, Teak. I hope that helps. Okay. Let's see what else would be vielleicht gedick through. Okay. Ruben asked, is their third eye open? If not, how can they open it? It's kind of similar to one of the other people I was answering a question for, where it's like it's opening. What I get for you is it's not fully open yet. How can you open it? It's going to be the similar answers that I was talking to before. I'm going to give more advice though too. I'm going to go further because it seems like you guys are interested in this topic, or at least the people tuning in as I'm answering it are interested in it. But let's see here. Again, I do get energy work. Would be a good one for you first and foremost to help open that up and open your gifts and abilities up and third eye up. And it does give you another way to balance your chakras and just open up further and just remove anything that might be in the way. Those attunements really move anything that's not in the way. Or sorry, those attunements really move things that are in the way as well to open you up further and open things up further. And then practicing energy work. Pulling cards can really open up an intuitive field. That's a great way to practice opening your third eye and doing intuitive practice and work. The other thing that came to me as well is especially if you're listening to channelers who are going like full channel mode, like that's another way to kind of open your third eye and activate those things in you as well, as just listening to channelers that you really resonate with and like when they're channeling their spirit guides or channeling source or the Pleiadians or whatever, because that kind of, with channeling comes a channel transmission from the highest, from source. That's in some ways that's doing energy work in a sense. It's having an energetic impact for the highest good in that way, usually regarding what's being channeled about, but it can just be whatever it needs to be. But it's also like being in that frequency opens you up and opens your third eye as well. So that's something to keep in mind as well, as just listening to different channelers that you vibe with. And I don't listen to a ton personally. I listen to my guides and I channel, and I'll listen to like Lee Harris, and that's kind of it, if I'm being honest. I have certain readers that I like on YouTube, but they're not always, when I check in, I don't really get they're always like channeling. They'll intuit the information, or they'll feel it, or they'll pick up on it in some other way. Some of them channel, but it's not quite like going, directly channeling spirit or source or their guides. That can be fine too, I'd say, but like people like Lee Harris, Wendy Kennedy's another one I'm familiar with. I've never really listened to her stuff. I don't always vibe with Lee Carroll Cryon personally. Like there's just sometimes there's something there that I'm just like, I don't know about this personally. So I'm very selective, but those are some ideas at least to help with opening your third eye more. But practice is probably one of the things that's going to help. Working with intuitive things like pendulums or body pendulums can also just help to practice and open those things up more. So it's really just like opening yourself to what in the intuitive fields draws you, move that direction, practice it, and then of course getting energy healing sessions or energy work are going to be really good things to help open up a third eye in my experience and just what I'm getting. So I hope that helps. Oh, thank you, Jillian Dollar Priestess. I've been guided to your vids for a while. So grateful for all you've helped me with. That means a lot. That means the world. Thank you so much. I am honored, and that, it always means so much when you guys let me know that. So I really appreciate you telling me. Thank you. Dun, 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 dun. Let me see what they want me to answer next here. Abdul, will they find a better job soon? What I'm getting is you're likely to find a string of jobs that lead you to a better job. Eventually, you do have a better job. Um, I wish I was getting yes, but I'm not getting like that is going to happen super well. What can I get a time frame, please? If you're willing to go through the jobs and some of the lessons they bring, you're going to start working through the patterns in yourself that attract the crappy jobs and like growing out of that. And you're going to start making a lot more money, one, and getting better positions, two, is something I'm getting. So you are on the right track to get a better job. And of course, like even just you showing up here, asking this question, like you're putting it out there to the universe that you want a better job. So you're already moving the energies in that direction and manifesting it. For whatever reason, what I'm getting is there's just a few more things you need to learn. And then you'll be there. You'll be getting a better job. So it is coming. Hang in there. I hope that comes to you sooner rather than later, regardless. But that's what I'm getting for you regarding that. Let's see what would be nice to get to next here. Sorry, I'm just seeing what question to answer here. Tesker Holly asks 333 and 444, what do they mean? So I do want to give the disclaimer, like I have my personal understanding and knowing of what those mean. It can be a little bit different for each person, or sometimes a lot of it different, just based on what they've honed in with the universe that those numbers mean. For instance, 444 to me means angels, and like angels are helping and like things are gonna be good. So if I'm worried about something, I see 444, I'm like, okay, it's gonna be okay. Angels are helping me with that. Angels are here. So as far as for you, what they mean here, what I'm getting for you is 333. When you're seeing 333, that's a positive turnaround and things are going to be all right, is what I'm getting. 444 for you, I'm getting it's angels as well, like angels helping out, angels around you. It's also about stability. I keep getting the word stability, and things stabilizing too, which is good. So anything else you need to know? 333 can also mean, just from my understanding, like just ascended masters are helping you out. Sometimes it means different things. I don't want to confuse you guys. So anything else that, if you have an understanding that's different, that's okay. Like when you see that number, it's gonna be what your understanding is. If you get a reading, or like you watch a general reading on YouTube and they're like, if you see this number, it's gonna mean this, and then you start seeing that number everywhere, probably has more to do with what the reading was saying, just so you're getting that message. And then it's either gonna keep being that, or it's gonna go back to whatever it meant for you originally before then, if you had an original meaning to it. So it's kind of, in some ways, it's like, what meaning have you honed in with these numbers? Of course, I can typically channel through like what they'll mean for someone else when someone else asks. But that's what I'm getting for you with those two numbers. Angels for 444, and then positive turnaround, things are going to be okay for 333. Another meaning for 333 to me is like ascended masters, and ascended masters want to help. So it's kind of similar to the angels one, but that's kind of that's what I'm getting on that. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much, John Constantinoy. I'm so sorry if I'm not saying that right, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And you as well. I appreciate it. Okay. Okay, XXT asks, how do they feel worthy or feel like they are on the right path? So let's see here. There's a couple things I'm getting first and foremost on that about feeling worthy. One, they just showed, this is going to sound boring, but we're going to get into it. Affirmations, of course, about worthiness, but also they showed me EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique, and emofree.com is a good website just to learn that for free. Emofree.com. It's like a whole course on how to do EFT tapping. And so you could utilize that technique just to kind of help move out any feelings of unworthiness, and just kind of start to heal that, essentially, is one thing I'm getting. There is a bit of past life healing involved with the feeling worthiness, is something I'm getting as well. Like I'm getting a past life of a nun where you didn't feel worthy of anything. Let's see. And like you were made to feel less worthy in some ways. And the reason I bring that up is sometimes when you're dealing with something that's related to a past life, just hearing about that past life and what happened and the messages about that can have your soul kind of just let go of some of the things you're carrying from that past life. You're like, oh, I don't need to carry this anymore. So it can start to heal and move those things. That might be one of the reasons that's coming through. But anything else that would help you to feel worthy right now here? One of the things they're showing me, I don't have the book next to me right now, but you might already know about it. I've talked about it before, but Energy Speaks by Lee Harris. And they just gave me a visual of that book and that book opening to a specific page and going to a specific line. And it's one that really, I've read the book multiple times, but it's always so funny how like sometimes I'll just feel guided to open the book and I'll just read something new. I'm like, where was that last time I read it? But it really jumped out at me, and it was this line, and you have to be aware of what I'm actually saying when I say this. But it was this line of, I am entitled to everything. And it was channeled, that line, he channeled that. And what it means is like, you're worthy, and in a sense, like you're entitled to the abundance of your soul this lifetime, and you're entitled to any experience you want to have. And what they said is like, maybe it doesn't happen maybe not every single thing you want to experience happens this lifetime, but you are entitled to it. And it's just kind of this message of like realizing your worth, and you are source and you are the divine. And of course you're infinitely worthy. But it's also, the reason that I liked that line is because it kind of puts a total different like spin or flip on what we're constantly taught to believe in society. And I also want to be careful in the way I word it, because what I don't mean is like, you'll hear like Republicans, or I'm not really political really, but you'll hear conservatives be like, oh, those entitled Democrats, the government handouts. And I don't really mean that. I don't mean like you're entitled to like other people's time, or you're entitled to other people's energy. You're entitled to, maybe in some ways big companies feel entitled to paying workers crap pay for, for a really crappy job that's actually really important for the company's operation. I don't mean that, but what I do mean on like a more of a different level, I think you get it by now. Like you're entitled to any experience you want, to manifest anything, to have anything. And that phrase might just be a good one to recite to yourself, just to kind of flip that point of view, I suppose you could say. As far as you feeling like you're on the right path here, I'm literally just getting the thing like, hey, soul, get me on the right path. Like you're talking to your soul, you're asking your soul to get you on the right path. Like, soul, get me on the right path. Soul, get me on the right path. And you're just kind of moving the momentum of your intentions that direction. And are you on your right path right now? Mostly you are. I feel like you're going to be more on your right path. And what you're waiting for are the physical manifestations that resonate with your soul in a way where you feel like you are totally and completely on the right path, and like, this is what I meant to do. And that will come, and there might be bits and spurts and ebbs and flows where you're like, am I really supposed to be doing this? But when the moments of clarity strike and you're supposed to be doing to something, like especially while you're doing it, listen to that and don't get bogged down in the words of other people or what you should be doing or what your life is supposed to look like. Like, don't worry about that. It's more like what feels best to you, if that makes any sense to you. So anyway, nothing else you can do to feel like you're on the right path here, besides just manifesting your way towards it. So what they're saying, they're giving me this visual of like cookie dough and cookie cutters, and they're kind of just showing how like maybe it seems like there's this standard shape that a lot of people have for this cookie cutter, this cut that they were made. They're this cookie that's this shape. And for some reason they're showing me like, for you, like you're a different cookie cutter shape. And that was the words they gave me, is you're a cookie cutter shape. So what does that mean about you being a different cookie cutter shape here? You are cut out for different things, essentially. It is a message about being cut out from a different cloth. And when you're comparing yourself to others who are a different cloth or a different cookie cutter shape, you might think there's something wrong with you or you don't belong. but you just haven't found your shapes that you belong with, cookie cutter wise, you could say. You haven't found your, I don't know, maybe a bunch of people are cut out to live in the desert, and they live in the desert and they thrive in the desert and they love eating giant scorpions and whatever people eat in the desert. But you're supposed to live in this forest, and like you keep looking at all these people in the desert like, what's wrong with me? But if you turn around and walk the other direction, you'd be like, oh, a forest. And then you'd find you were perfectly designed to like thrive in this forest. And sometimes if you don't feel like you're on the right path, you're just not in the right environment, is something I'd say. And I'm not saying to take an axe to your life and change everything right away, but I would try to look out for and ask for what is for you, even if it's totally different than what you'd expect and totally different than what anyone else is going through. So I hope that helps. Okay, I'm getting to do more of like a collective or just general reading right now. Excuse me. So if you guys are up for that, and I'm starting to lose my voice, it sounds like, which I remember now. It hasn't happened a lot in the recent lives, but back when I first started going live, like early last year, whenever my guys would be like, stop, end the live, and I didn't end the live, I'd start to lose my voice. I think in this case, it's just because I taught Reiki too yesterday, so I talked for like 6 hours. So let's do a collective reading and I'll see what I'm guided to do from there. Okay, so give me 1 second here. What card deck should I use? All right, we'll use the Mother Mary Oracle card deck again. I felt drawn to use this deck recently, especially like in the past couple months with like what happens with like Russia invading Ukraine. I just felt like the energies that Mother Mary is about, like the compassion, the love, the miracles, the healing, really just kind of were an antidote to that in some ways, or just to so we'll see how long I keep using this deck, but I'm going to see I want to see like what is the major theme, or what are the major themes for this collective reading for all of you. So it's for you if you're seeing this now, of course it's for you now, or it's meant to be a collective general reading. If you're seeing it in the future, if I upload it on YouTube, it's for you when you see it. So, Arlie, the Whispering Heart coming out here. With this card, for most of you already know the direction you're supposed to be going. Like there's already a whisper telling you like, you need to be doing this thing over here, or you need to walk away from this thing or that thing, are examples that I'm getting for that. And if you listen to that whisper, that voice, that guidance grows louder, and you'll be living more intuitively is something I'm getting. And but for some reason I'm getting this message like it can start with a whisper. For some of you who are more in this space already where you're hearing your guides, maybe you'll start hearing your guides in the form of a whisper, and that can show up sometimes. And not a whisper from other people, like you literally just hear a whisper from your guides, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you experience it. Beyond that, as far as it starts with a whisper here, the other message that they have, the other angle they want to bring through for the rest of you is sometimes things that are really important just start really quietly. Like maybe you start a new career, but you don't tell any of your friends. It's like a weird example. Or you start a business, but you don't tell anyone. And then like by the time you tell people, it's like it's already happening or something like that. But it's like there are major events happening right now in your life that are going to be very important in your future that are very silent right now. Whether it's like, if you read between the lines, maybe you'll see it, or if you really pay attention, maybe you'll see it, but it's like it's not obvious yet. And I suppose, what's the best way to explain this here? I don't like war analogies, especially with like war going on, but I suppose it'd be like instead of announcing war, you just like silently started rolling in, or things like that is kind of what I'm talking about. So what is the main advice for you regarding this card though? One, listening to your intuition and to those whispers. Two, trusting that things are going to change even if it doesn't seem like it right now. Like the whispers are there. Like it's just like not everyone hears the whispers. And like one of the ways I could describe this message as well is like I was watching I think it was Gary V, video, and he was talking about how 7-Eleven is like dead. You just don't see it yet. Like 7-Eleven's out of business. And what he was talking about was like, because of Amazon and the way delivery's going and like other companies, like you're going to be, he's like, you know, eventually like 20 years in the future, you're going to be able to just like open your phone or whatever and just like order something and it's on your doorstep in an hour. So like no one's going to go to 7-Eleven if, you know, or to convenience stores, like if you can just get everything on your doorstep, you know, for free at the lowest price, instantaneously. And so he's like that in some ways, like how it relates to the cards, like those whispers are already there. It's just like if you're not already reading the situation and noticing those patterns, like you don't see it yet, if that makes more sense. So the other thing they're showing me is like this heart on the card is silver for Mother Mary, but they're showing it turning to gold in my intuitive visuals. And so it's like a heart upgrade essentially. So everyone here is kind of going through that. So there might be a little bit of a heart release, where it's just like maybe you feel a little bit weepy one day, or you're just emotional, you're not sure why, or maybe something happens to trigger that, and trigger those emotions, or maybe it's like an emotional scare where it's like you think someone's going to break up with you, but then they don't, and you're like, and like it just kind of triggers all this heart stuff to release or to come up and be examined. Some of that might be going around. On the converse side, some of you might just be flying high and just feeling more emotionally fulfilled than ever before. And on the other side of this, that you just feel great and heart open and warm and fuzzy. So, and eventually, you know, with the heart upgrade, you get to that flip side or get to that better spot regarding it where you're just more loving or compassionate or something. But that is going around. And it does kind of go in bits and spurts. So you might have gotten like a bit of an upgrade for your heart in March. And then like it kind of dies down as some other things happen in your life. And then it kind of picks back up in April. And then it kind of completes in May or something like that. Like there might be a bit of an ebb and flow to like the way it's going on, but it is happening is something I'm getting for everyone here. And that's kind of the direction the world needs to go. I remember it must have been a month or two ago. I think it was a month ago. There was this message coming through really strongly about like becoming heart-centered and living from your heart space is going to be what starts to change the world, and coming from that spot, because you're living at that higher resonance and you're not living in judgment and you're not living in fear, and you're not living in nervous breakdowns, I suppose. And it's okay if you're there and you're going through that and you're healing that. Like that's nothing wrong with that. But the more you're healing that heart and letting that heart upgrade and stepping into that frequency bandwidth, that one also can be a part of turning on your intuition. Your heart is one of your centers for the intuition and knowing. And that is a place you can tune into to get intuition. So, and the three commonly taught about are your heart, your third eye, and your stomach, your gut, essentially. So keep that in mind. But there is more of a heart awakening going on, and that can look really good and joyous, but it can also look a little bit weepy. Jeez. So that's another message that's coming through for you guys. Next card out here, Our Lady of the Inner Gates. And I'm getting the words suffering, but also the words end of suffering with this card, Our Lady of the Inner Gate. So what is this about here? Some of the stories that have caused suffering are dissipating, essentially, like in your lives, especially like internally, if you've been running a pattern or a thought about the past and like you're just constantly mulling over like this X or this thing or that. It's like a lot of those patterns that cause suffering are just starting to capsize, essentially, where suffering, the way it's headed, and I think I said this earlier in the live, is like suffering isn't going to be as big of a frequency on Earth. And in some ways, suffering can be a choice in a weird way. But the way the collective is going and the way the Earth is moving, the way the energies are adjusting, suffering is becoming less and less, and it might seem slow and over time, but if you're willing to grab a hold of that idea and maybe even ask for less suffering and just be open to the idea that suffering doesn't have to exist, there's just going to be less of it on the planet. And that's part of that heart healing, because you know, sometimes suffering can get you out of the heart space. Sometimes you're in your sacral, suffering, or sometimes you're in your head, like in this mental loop or pattern. But when you're in the heart, it's like you're less likely to suffer, or if something painful does happen, if something painful does happen, you're less likely to create a story that perpetuates the suffering around the pain, is something I'm getting as well. but it is a big message of internal healing right now and release, which release has been something that I think last week, and I just noticed in the past couple weeks, like release started becoming more of a theme that was kind of coming up in general. Still going around is something I'd say where just people are releasing a lot. And I do feel like we're going to have more of like a high point, maybe June, July, August is what I'm getting. Like, so summertime in the northern hemisphere, winter in the southern hemisphere, where you're going to have a bit more of a high point or period coming out of that release, essentially. And you know what? Sometimes release just feels like, sometimes it feels a bit heavier and you're just going through that and you're feeling it. Sometimes release is really just light and you're just stepping out of these old things. You're like, oh, I just feel free and light. So it doesn't always have to be bad or bad, I suppose you could say. The way some of these things show up is something I'd like to say as well. And I'll say it because I for some reason it's popping into my head. I'll say it. Sometimes we have more sway over how things show up than we realize, and we have more power in creating how things work than we recognize or than we're taught to believe or know. So for instance, if you feel like it's been taught either by spiritual people, nothing wrong with them, or others, that like release always has to be this painful thing where all these dark thoughts come up and it's this terrible thing, you can always go like, okay, what else is possible? Is there another possibility? Is there a way for release to always be freeing and easier and more graceful? And one message I've been seeing other people say is like healing is moving faster and brighter and just easier. It's easier on the planet as it compared to before, like a few decades ago. And so we can kind of create it, and we do create a lot of it. And if you're willing to create things being less suffering, and I don't say like we're consciously, cognitively being like, I'm gonna go suffer today. Like, that's not it. But energetically, we can start to move things in the direction where it's less common and like release is easier or things are easier. And if you're not sure how to do that, like I always recommend just ask, like, what would it take for that to show up? And then let the universe show you what it would take for that to show up. Or I asked that. It just reminds me of a story of a woman I met back when I worked at a certain job that I had. And she would talk about how like she'd get a reading or something in her astrology would say like things are going to happen, like some big change is going to happen. And she'd be like, okay, well, if it's going to change, I'd like it to change this way. And every time she did that, it would change in the way she asked it to change, instead of her going into fear and being like, my world's going to end. She'd be like, well, if my relationship's going to change, I'd like it to be like this way. And she'd set that intention and then it would happen that way. So we have more sway over our reality than we realize. And I was going to say something they don't want me to say, so let me rein this in and see where they want me to go with this. The point is, you can kind of create how things work sometimes, not always. And if you find yourself in the middle of something and you're trying to create that it works differently, it's not happening, like that's okay. Take a step back, let it work how it's working, that's okay. But we do sometimes, if not always, have that power to start creating something different. Keep that in mind. I don't know why I wanted to get into that tangent, but here we are. What's the next message for you guys here? I'm getting a message of amplification. And it's kind of like thoughts, desires, things are going to be amplified at this time, maybe even feelings. So you might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And so what's going on? Why is this happening? And what can you do about it? Okay, so what is kind of happening is like a collective amplification to help with release, where it's like if things are magnified. Oh, we also have the solar eclipse coming up on the 30th, I just realized. And I was already getting messages on that, like things are going to be magnified for that, like things are going to be magnified. So this message is starting to make sense. But sometimes, like, to help us see a pattern we need to release, things get a little bit more magnified or in our face so we see it and then release it, as opposed to just running the pattern. And I guess the message is, if no one ever got sick or overweight or had any health issues from eating cookies all day, every day, everyone would just eat cookies all day, every day. But when that pattern gets magnified because we get sick from eating cookies, we start to say, never mind, I'm not going to eat cookies, I'm going to eat broccoli. Sorry, Cookie Monster, you were a bad role model. But essentially that's kind of what's happening, is things might get a little bit magnified or a little bit quickened, so you're seeing what's going on and you can make adjustments in that way. It also just, you're seeing things more clearly. Clarity is something that's kind of coming more in May, is something I'm getting as well. If you're seeing this now, if you're seeing it in the future, it's going to be happening more just in the next month or so, is something I'd say. So what else do you guys need to know? What else is coming through for you guys right now here? Yeah, I mean, they are giving a message about collective healing. They're saying healing is going to be easier. We already kind of covered that. So anything else, anything deeper on that here? I'll pull another card. So we got that one. Okay. Our Lady of Becoming coming out here next here. And in some ways, that's kind of what this year is about for a lot of you here, is something I'm getting, is like becoming something different, becoming something new, becoming who you are. Like one of the messages I kept getting for this year was like a Rise of the Soul, or like Year of the Soul is what my guides called it, where it was like just the soul is going to be more just kind of taking over. Like it's going to be really difficult to be on a path that's not aligned with your soul. Like in a sense, like if you're not aligned with your soul, like you're going to know it and you're going to get on that path one way, shape, or form, essentially. Like the soul just coming in really strongly this year and going forward from this year too. But you're becoming more of that. Like you're becoming more of like more embodied regarding embodying your soul, becoming more of who you're meant to be, like who you're destined to be. And there is like a lot of destined and fated events for this crowd, like this year and the next couple years is really what I'm getting, where certain things might just change on a dime, like for the better, or certain things might just like work out in a completely different way. But it's like, no matter what, you're on your destined pathway. It's like certain things are written in the star for a lot of you, like this year and the next couple, where if you need a change in your life, you're gonna have it one way, shape, or form, whether it's easy, quick, or whether it's drastic. So if you don't feel like you're on your soul path, you're gonna be, is one thing I'm getting, whether that looks like being a healer, or that looks like being a writer, or that looks like completely different than you ever expected. That's going to be happening very strongly. So the more you're tuning in with your soul this year, the better. And how do you do that? You can literally just go to meditate and say, I asked to sit with my soul. Thank you so much. And just see what shows up, what the energies are like. And like, do you feel your soul? That's one tip for those of you who are ready for that here. But it's just a message of, it sounds weird, becoming who you are, but becoming who you're meant to be essentially is what I'm getting here. They are showing me butterflies, which are about transformation. For some of you, the transformation, if you've been going through one, might be a little bit slowed down temporarily, just so you can catch your breath, is something they're showing me. So if you need respite from any type of intense transformations, you're going to be getting like a breath or a break from that before you hit the ground running again. And sometimes that's needed. And if you ever wonder why things don't always just happen all at once, all of the time, sometimes it would just be very disastrous if you were a completely different person tomorrow and all your relationships fell apart because of it, and you lost your job, and not all the things were in place for you to move forward into that new you fully with the new life. It could happen, and it probably has happened, honestly. But for most of you, you're at the right piece, but some of the transformation might be slowed down where needed, so you're not overwhelmed or overburdened with it. That's something I'm getting here. Anything else important for you guys to know right now here? The next thing that's kind of coming up is death, but it's more about like facing death or making peace with death. Like the concept, I'm not saying like everyone's gonna be dying, that's not it, but it's like the concept of death and like making peace with that being a part of our life here. And like in some ways, like some of the ways we're living life, or people are living life, are going to be called into question because it's not in alignment with the fact that they're going to die one day. And it can be a good thing to keep in mind just so you live fully, but you might get examples of that in your surroundings, or you might have to come face to face with how you're living, and does it line up with the fact that you're going to die one day? Or is that something you've kind of swept under the rug? Not many of you have, by the way, but in the world around you, it can be fairly common because you don't want to think about it. You know, we just want to Netflix and chill and stuff. Not we. I shouldn't include everyone. Some people just want to Netflix and chill and stuff and forget about anything. But I don't think that's you guys, but what else is important about that one? That's just kind of a heads up, like that might be popping up here. I'm also getting a weird message like healing death wounds. What the heck does that mean? Let me see. It's kind of healing wounds that might have happened because other people have died. Or it could even be healing wounds that came about from past lives through you dying in a specific way. But that's going to be kind of healed more in the month of May is what I'm getting collectively, where you're kind of going through that healing of those things or things around death. And it's really just so that you live more fully. That's where that's headed. It's not to punish us, or it's not to whip us into shape and be like, haha, you forgot about death and now you will be punished. It's more just to remind you to live fully. And I think after some of that things happen, that's when the transformation is going to start kicking into full high gear again. They're showing me the concept of polka dots, and they're just saying, hey, have more fun, be silly. On the other side of that, and just a reminder of that, like, and I was going to say like regardless of world events, but they're saying especially because of world events. And it's like, if you're in a good spot, like the universe needs that to balance out anything that's dragging other people down, essentially. And sometimes just being fun and being silly, like that can be the reset for you, where the ideas start flowing again, or you get the ideas. Like if you're really serious about like, oh, I gotta get my business to succeed, and you're just sitting there 12 hours a day, like this about your business and getting it to succeed, and like constantly mulling it over, maybe just taking a break to have fun and be silly, the ideas might start to flow again, because you're not just like in this like struggling kind of position. So just a quick reminder to do that, and that would be helpful for you guys, is something I'm getting as well. So anything else that you guys need to know about just collectively, or that would be for your highest good right now? What would be for your highest good right now? The next thing showing up is like a bear. Is a Kodiak a type of bear? I don't know. It's a bear. That's the important part. They're just showing me this bear like in this forest. And the thing with the bear is like, you don't mess with the bear. And many of you, it reminds me of bear spirit animal, which is about divine protection essentially. And it's rapid protection, kind of like a mama bear, like pops out of the woods and just like tackles anything that's near her cubs essentially. A lot of you have an energy that's for the highest good, like that around you, where you have that potent protection. And like some of you guys are just afraid that things are gonna go wrong, but they don't go wrong, because you have that protection. So keep that in mind. Like a lot of the things you think are gonna go wrong are not gonna go wrong. It's just a brief reminder of that for some reason, if anyone needs to hear that. Like if you're afraid of things going wrong, for the vast majority of you, they're not going to go wrong, is what I'll say. But the other thing with bear here is some of you spiritually just have this bear spirit animal behind you, and it's like you're kind of, maybe you go about your day to day and don't totally realize it's there, but then it's like you don't mess with the bear. So a lot of the things like spiritually you might be afraid of are really non-issues, is one thing I want to say. Because you have this bear that's like, don't fuck with them. Oh, I shouldn't swear on TikTok, should I? Don't F with them. You know, is kind of what I'm seeing as well for those of you who are really concerned about there. And for some reason I want to bring through the message I'm getting is like, there's not as much to be afraid of up there as like people would have you convinced of. Because sometimes I'll flip through the tarot readings, whether it's on TikTok or elsewhere, and sometimes it's just terrifying. It's just, they're talking about this thing and this evil thing and this terrible person and this thing. I'm like, oh my God. But for some reason there's just this reminder, like things are not as bad up there as they may seem based on what other people are saying. And a lot of fear-based things are a lie, just straight up. Or it's like an example would be like, some people think negative angels exist. Every time I tune in, I just get no, they don't exist. And the thing my guide showed me was like, negative angels don't exist. Maybe someone created a negative energy and thought it was a negative angel, but it wasn't a negative angel. So for some reason there's just this reminder, like spiritually things are like not as terrifying as most people on earth would have you believe, and most of them are afraid of the unknown more so than they actually know what they're talking about. So that's something I'm getting as well. So I hope that made sense and was good. That's kind of a lot of what I'm getting right now. Unleash the panda, yes. Was that from Seeing Red, the Disney show? Or Disney movie? Or Pixar, sorry. I've been seeing a big brown bear holding me, giving me a big hug and meditation. So much love. Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome, guys. I'm getting that's it. And so hopefully that was good for you guys. I always feel like sometimes just getting that flow. I'm like, oh, that was good. But, oh, excuse me. Okay. Yeah, I know this live has been a little bit shorter than some of my other ones. I'm kind of getting to end it and wrap it up though. So I'm probably just going to do that and just listen. Thanks, Destiny. I appreciate it. You're welcome. I appreciate you guys. Marie, no, your guys aren't on strike. That's not what's going on. Cool. So I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Of course, if these messages, if you liked my reading style, if you liked what was coming through, if you like my vibe, I do personal readings, just through the link tree in my bio, just the first link. I do I guess I'm doing self-promotion because I'm trying to get better at self-promoting. So this is my practice, I guess. I do also have a book. It's Spirit Guides, Angels, and Speaking with Source. And it's just a really good book that there's a lot of good energetic transmissions, and it's of course geared towards helping you speak to your spirit guides, the angels, and source, if that calls to you. So this book is here as well in my link tree if you're interested. If not, no worries. What's important is you find the right things for you. Absolutely. And that's it for now. That's as far as what they want me to self-promote it off. So I hope you guys have a brilliant rest of your week and day. I'm gonna be posting more this week because I know I didn't post as much last week, and I will see you another time. All right, so you all take care. If I can remember how to close this out.